Pegasus. Pegasus wasn't your average horse. He was born when Perseus chopped off Medusa's head, and out of the gore came a winged stallion. That's one way to make an entrance. Some say Poseidon was his dad, which means this horse had divine horsepower from day one. Pure white, with giant wings, Pegasus wasn't just for show. His hooves could strike the ground and make springs flow, like the Hippogriff well that inspired poets. Basically, the horse was a walking, flying coffee boost for creativity. His most famous rider was Bellerophon. With Athena's golden bridle, he saddled up and took down the Chimera, a fire-breathing lion-goat-snake monster. But Bellerophon got cocky. He tried flying Pegasus straight to Olympus, and the horse threw him off. Moral: don't try to Uber your way into God territory. Zeus later turned Pegasus into a constellation, so every night you can spot him in the sky. From Greek pottery to modern movies and logos, Pegasus stayed legendary. He wasn't just wings and speed, he was inspiration with feathers, Sleipnir. Sleipnir was Odin's ride, and calling him a horse undersells it. He had 8 legs, not 4, 8. Born when Loki turned into a mare, hooked up with a stallion, and yeah, Norse myths don't do normal family trees. Gray, massive, and twice as leggy, Sleipnir could run across land, leap over the sea, and even ride into the underworld. No road was too rough, no realm off limits. Odin didn't just travel, he glided between worlds like he had a cheat code. Stories say Sleipnir carried Odin to seers and shamans, always steady, always unstoppable. In a mythology filled with wolves, giants, and dragons, this horse still stood out as the ultimate mount. Symbolically, Sleipnir bridged worlds, life and death, earth and sky, chaos and order. In pop culture, he shows up in comics, games, and even gets the occasional Marvel shout-out. 8 legs, endless power. Sleipnir wasn't just a horse, he was the Norse myth equivalent of a turbocharged sports car. Garuda. Garuda wasn't a regular bird. He was the king of birds. Giant wings, golden body, and a beak sharp enough to scare gods. Born to the sage Kashyapa and Vinata, Garuda came out shining so bright the gods panicked. They begged him to tone it down. Garuda's main gig? Mount of Vishnu, the preserver god in Hindu mythology. Think of him as the ultimate divine airline. With Garuda, Vishnu could zip across realms, hunt demons, and save the world without waiting in traffic. But Garuda wasn't just a taxi, he hated snakes. Legends say he once stole the nectar of immortality from the gods just to free his mother from slavery to serpents. From then on, snakes feared him, and he became the eternal enemy of Nagas. Symbolically, Garuda is speed, strength, and protection. He's carved into temples, printed on national emblems like Indonesia's Garuda Pancasila, and appears in games and anime as the ultimate sky beast. Imagine an eagle, crank the size up to colossal, and give it god-tier loyalty. That's Garuda. Qilin. Qilin is often called the Chinese unicorn, but that doesn't do it justice. It's more like if a dragon, a deer, and a horse had a mystical baby covered in flames. Hooves, antlers, scales, sometimes a beard. Qilin didn't just look magical, it screamed magical. This creature showed up only during times of peace or when a great ruler was about to be born. Legend says one appeared to Confucius's mother before his birth, dropping a jade tablet and predicting his wisdom. Basically, the Qilin was the mythological good vibes only animal. Unlike dragons or tigers, Qilin wasn't about destruction. It avoided stepping on grass or harming even a bug. Yet, when angered, it could breathe fire or stomp evil flat. So, gentle protector, but with a "don't test me" clause. Symbolically, Qilin stands for prosperity, longevity, and justice. You'll see it in Chinese art, Japanese folklore as Kirin, and even on beer labels. If dragons are firepower and lions are brute force, Qilin is cosmic approval in beast form. Uchchaihshravas. Uchchaihshravas was no ordinary horse. He had 7 heads. Yes, 7. Pure white, radiant, and taller than any mortal steed, he emerged from the cosmic churning of the ocean. The same event that birthed nectar, goddesses, and poison. Talk about a dramatic debut. This horse first went to Indra, king of the gods, and became his divine mount. With 7 heads, Uchchaihshravas could see in every direction, outrun storms, and stand as a status symbol for ultimate authority. If Pegasus was grace, this was raw cosmic horsepower times 7. But he wasn't always a good omen. Some tales say demons tried to claim him, sparking fights between gods and asuras. In other stories, he represents royal power and the ability to bridge heaven and earth. Symbolically, Uchchaihshravas is the pinnacle of divine steeds, victory, purity, and dominance. Today, he pops up in Hindu art, epics like the Mahabharata, and even fantasy games drawing from Indian lore. One head is legendary. 7 heads? That's myth overdrive. Buraq. Buraq is the legendary steed from Islamic tradition, and honestly, legendary doesn't even cut it. Picture a shining white creature, part horse, part mule, with wings that let it leap across the horizon in a single stride. Its very name comes from bark, meaning lightning. So yeah, we're talking speed that makes Pegasus look like he's still tying his shoes. Buraq's big moment was the night journey, where it carried the Prophet Muhammad from Mecca to Jerusalem and then up through the heavens in the Mirage. Along the way, it stopped at holy places, turning the trip into a cosmic roadmap. This wasn't just travel, it was divine teleportation with style. Art sometimes shows Buraq with a human face or a peacock tail depending on the culture. But no matter the design, the message is clear. Buraq isn't just transport, it's a bridge between Earth and the divine. A mount so fast, the only boarding pass you need is faith. Nandi. Nandi is the bull you don't mess with. Not because he's scary, but because he's sacred. This snow-white bull is the mount of Shiva, one of Hinduism's greatest gods. But Nandi isn't just parked outside like valet service. Statues of him sit at temple entrances, always facing the main shrine, like the world's most patient bouncer. Myths say Nandi was blessed with strength and devotion, so much so that worshippers whisper prayers into his ear, trusting he'll pass them straight to Shiva. Think of him as a spiritual intercom system with horns. Nandi stands for loyalty, purity, and protection. He's not just Shiva's ride, he's Shiva's right-hand bull. Airavata. Airavata is the elephant king and not your regular circus act either. Born from the cosmic churning of the ocean, this massive white elephant sometimes shows up with 3 tusks, sometimes more. And his day job? Carrying Indra, king of the gods. Airavata wasn't just muscle, he was the weather system. Known as the elephant of the clouds, his trumpeting was said to bring thunder and rain. Farmers loved him, enemies feared him, and Indra looked pretty unbeatable riding him into battle. Symbolically, Airavata was strength, fertility, and balance. That's why temple gates across India still show him spraying water or guarding the heavens. In modern games and anime, Airavata pops up as the ultimate war elephant. Basically, he was the climate, the cavalry, and the icon all rolled into one. Hippogriff. The hippogriff is what happens when a horse and an eagle decide to ignore biology. Head, wings, and front claws of an eagle, back half of a horse. In other words, nightmare fuel that somehow turned into poetry. First mentioned by Italian poet Ludovico Ariosto, the hippogriff was meant to be impossible, a symbol of love conquering odds, since eagles and horses were thought to hate each other. But in stories, this impossible beast carried knights across oceans and even to the moon. Modern times, hippogriffs soared into pop culture with Harry Potter's Buckbeak, reminding us they're not just majestic, they're moody. Respect them or get clawed. A blend of elegance and danger, the hippogriff made the impossible rideable. Kelpie. Kelpies are shape-shifting water horses from Scottish folklore, and they are not here to give you a nice ride. They lure travelers, usually kids, onto their backs, then dive straight into rivers or lochs to drown them. Yeah, terrifying. Legends say you could spot a Kelpie by its constantly dripping mane, or by the fact that once you touched it, your hands stuck like glue. Some tales even claim it could appear human, but would always have a tell, like waterweed tangled in its hair. Symbolically, Kelpies are warnings. They're the dangers of wild water dressed up as a beautiful horse. Modern fantasy turns them into sleek, magical mounts, but in the old stories, trusting a Kelpie was a one-way ticket underwater. Chollima. Chollima comes from East Asian legend, especially Korea, and its name means thousand-li horse. A li is about 1/3 of a mile, so we're talking a horse that can sprint hundreds of miles in a single breath. Basically, too fast to ever catch or tame. In stories, Chollima only appears to worthy heroes, the ones who need to cover impossible distances to finish their quests. It's less of a horse you keep, more of a miracle you get once. The symbol stuck. In modern Korea, Chollima represents rapid progress and unstoppable energy. There's even a Chollima movement named after it. The horse that can't be ridden became the metaphor for a nation's drive. Pure speed, pure spirit. White Dragon Horse. By Longma, the White Dragon Horse might look like just another mount in Journey to the West. But behind that white mane is a dragon prince with a pretty wild backstory. He was the son of the Dragon King of the West Sea, who got himself in trouble after accidentally burning a pearl meant for the Jade Emperor. For punishment, he was banished and destined to serve mortals. When Tongsanzang set off on his sacred pilgrimage, this dragon was supposed to eat him. Instead, he swallowed the monk's horse, got caught by Sun Wukong, and ended up transforming into the replacement, a loyal white steed. Talk about failing upward. He carried Tang through deserts, mountains, and demons, often overlooked but essential to finishing the quest. At the journey's end, he was rewarded with bodhisattva status. Sometimes the quietest mount hides the loudest past. Qianlima. Qianlima literally means thousand li horse in Chinese lore, a cousin to the Korean Chollima. The idea? A horse so fast it could cover 1,000 li in a single day. But here's the twist. Spotting one wasn't about speed, it was about vision. Chinese legends say only wise rulers or skilled judges could recognize a Qianlima. So it became a metaphor for hidden talent. Rare, powerful, but wasted if unnoticed. Not just a beast, but a living proverb. Today, Qianlima shows up in art, poetry, and even company logos. Less about racing, more about potential waiting to be unleashed. Longma, dragon horse. The Longma is exactly what it sounds like. A dragon horse, scaled body, fiery breath, and the speed of a stallion. In Chinese myth, it wasn't just cool looking, it was divine proof. One story says a Longma rose from the Yellow River carrying the famous River Map, a cosmic chart that inspired rulers and sages. Basically, it was Google Maps with scales. Longma symbolized heavenly approval and righteous rule. You didn't just write it, you got legitimacy from the cosmos. Today, it survives in idioms, art, and fantasy, standing tall as a creature of wisdom, speed, and destiny. Tulpar. Tulpar is the winged horse of Turkic and Central Asian legends, and it looks like what Pegasus would be if he lived on the steppes. Massive wings, boundless stamina, and the ability to carry warriors across endless plains. But Tulpar wasn't only for flight, it was also tied to the invention of the bow. Some tales say its wings inspired the design of composite bows, giving nomads their most powerful weapon. So this horse literally shaped warfare. Today, Tulpar is a national symbol in places like Kazakhstan and Mongolia, appearing on coats of arms and flags. More than a mount, it's heritage with wings. Makara. Makara is a sea creature from Hindu and Buddhist mythology, and it's basically the ocean's mashup monster. Sometimes half crocodile, half fish, sometimes elephant snout with a fishtail. Not consistent, but always powerful. Gods like Ganga, the river goddess, rode Makara as their mount, symbolizing control over rivers and seas. In temples, it shows up as a guardian, often spitting out smaller figures like a cosmic fountain. Makara wasn't just an aquatic pet, it stood for fertility, protection, and the unpredictable force of water. Think of it as the mythic mix and match beast that made rivers sacred and terrifying at the same time. Arvak, Skyrim ghost horse. Arvak is a fan favorite from the Elder Scrolls V. Skyrim. Instead of a regular horse, you summon a glowing skeletal ghost horse that bursts out of the soul cairn. Pretty metal. In-game, Arvak doesn't need stables, food, or even skin. You just call him, hop on, and ride. He's loyal, fast, and immune to death, because he's already dead. Fans love Arvak not just for convenience, but for style. Summoning a ghost horse in battle screams Dark Rider vibes. He may not come from ancient myths, but in gamer folklore, Arvak already feels legendary. Invincible, Arthas' steed, Warcraft. Invincible is the tragic, loyal mount of Arthas Menethil from World of Warcraft lore. In life, he was a proud white stallion, fast, noble, and beloved by his rider. But tragedy struck when Arthas drove him too hard through a winter storm, and Invincible broke a leg. Devastated, Arthas put him down himself. Years later, after Arthas became the Lich King, he resurrected Invincible as an undead warhorse. Now armored in frost and bone, Invincible carried his master through countless battles, a haunting reminder of the prince who fell to darkness. For players, Invincible became one of the most coveted mounts in the game, rare, chilling, and packed with lore. More than a ride, Invincible was Arthas' shadow-made flesh. Ashes of Al-Ar, new Phoenix mount. Ashes of Al-Ar is one of the most iconic mounts in World of Warcraft. It's a phoenix, fiery wings, blazing tail, and the kind of entrance that makes everyone else's horse look boring. This mount drops from Kael'thas Sunstrider in Tempest Keep, and for years, players farmed endlessly just to see it in their collection. It wasn't just rare, it was prestige. If you had ashes, you weren't just lucky, you were legendary. Lore-wise, Alar was Cael'thas's beloved phoenix, reborn in flame whenever it died. That made riding its ashes feel like carrying a piece of immortal fire. Ashes of Alar wasn't just a mount, it was bragging rights on wings. Tigbalang. Tigbalang comes from Philippine folklore, and it's way creepier than your usual mount. Imagine a tall, lanky creature with the body of a human but the head and legs of a horse. Not friendly, not majestic, just nightmare fuel. Legends say Tigbalangs lurk in forests and mountains, tricking travelers by making them lose their way. But here's the twist. If you manage to pluck a golden hair from its mane, you could tame it as your mount. The price of glory? Wrestling a horse demon. Tigbalangs symbolized chaos, fear of the wild, and the mystery of nature. Modern versions turn them into horror icons or fantasy beasts. But either way, you don't just saddle up a Tigbalang, you survive it. Epona. Epona was the Celtic horse goddess, and she wasn't tied to just one hero. She was for everyone. Farmers, warriors, and travelers all prayed to her for safe rides and healthy horses. Unlike many gods, she wasn't picky. Her statues show her riding side saddle, feeding foals, or carrying a cornucopia. That made her not only a goddess of speed and travel, but also fertility and abundance. A well-rounded divine horse guardian. Rome loved her too. Soldiers stationed far from home adopted Epona as their protector, making her one of the few Celtic deities to spread across the empire. And if her name sounds familiar, that's because Nintendo borrowed it for Link's trusty steed in The Legend of Zelda. From ancient shrines to video games, Epona never stopped riding. If you enjoyed riding through these legends, hit subscribe and saddle up for more.